Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is me, your movie guru, with another review. This time, we're going to be doing Child's Play. For those of you who don't know, it is a reboot of sorts of the Child's Play franchise, starring the killer doll Chucky. Uh, this is kind of a funny movie to see coming off the heels of having just seen Toy Story 4. These are both of these films were kind of movies from my childhood. Uh, Toy Story 4 definitely, or Toy Story franchise definitely for a different reason, and then Chucky. I can definitely remember as a kid being scared of one of my toys, action figures, coming to life and being this murderous entity. Uh, that said, this one changes up the script a little bit. Instead of kind of like a identical remake and where they try to follow the same script as the original ones with some minor updates, this one really does change a lot and kind of makes the film its own. So instead of in the original one where you had, if I recall correctly, uh, Chucky was evil because he was there was a little bit more mystical, supernatural related, where the soul of a serial killer had been implanted in this doll. In this one, they tried to make it a bit more realistic, if you will, as realistic as a movie about a murderous doll could be. But they kind of updated it for the century that we're living in currently with the whole Internet of Things. So Chucky is this doll that has corrupted software, and he has basically he's kind of like has access to other things like Alexa, has access to your home, and he becomes murderous without me revealing exactly why. Uh, in a nutshell, I'd say this movie was okay. I thought it was fun, an interesting new way to take things. I'd say the biggest thing that I thought this movie suffered from was sometimes I see this with superhero films as well, like with more known superheroes like Superman and Batman, Spider Man. Every time they want to reboot it for a new generation, they kind of have this problem with how much time do we want to spend on the origin story, because it can get kind of tedious, especially when you've done remakes uh, in close succession with each other, because at this point, like with Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, these type of heroes, everyone kind of knows their backstory, how they were started. So I've seen some filmmakers, like when I've seen the films, I've seen kind of a bit of a struggle with how much of the backstory to tell. And I'd say with this one, even though Chucky is definitely not as well known as Superman, uh, I felt they spent a little bit too long on Chucky's turn, if you will. Even if you don't really know, if you hadn't seen the earlier Chucky films, you are aware that Chucky is an evil, murderous doll. Basically, you get that. And I felt they kind of spent too much time on making, I guess, his turn legitimate. And I mean, with this type of film, I think you're already going into it with a certain sense, like you're already suspending your belief about it being ultra realistic. It's kind of like it reminds me of I'm thinking of a Freddy Krueger movie. You don't ask how did this child killer die and then suddenly be able to invade people's dreams. You just go with it. That's the premise of the movie, that he's able to do that. And so the same with the Chucky thing. It's I don't think they had to spend so much time making his turn evil legitimate, and so that you would buy it. I think it's kind of one of those things that from the beginning of the movie you go in thinking, okay, yes, this guy's going to be evil. So that said, they did change up things a little bit. I was interested to see this new layer that they were able to add, because now when the first Chucky movies came out, they didn't have the internet like it is today, so they were able to add a few more levels of terror in that, you know, he could control things, he could control your TV, you know, he can control drones, you know, that type of thing. So I thought that was interesting to see. They definitely, I would say, up the gore that you don't see in other Chucky films, and in certain aspects it worked pretty well, and it was humorous. It didn't take itself too seriously. So there was a lot of things that I thought the movie got right. Like I said, I thought it had a little bit trouble on the start, and I think that hampered it from really going places that it could have gone that I thought would have been interesting. But that said, like I said, I give it a 7 out of 10. Currently, it has a 60%, I believe, on Rotten Tomatoes, 67% audience score, and I think that's pretty in line with what the general public would think. You know, your average moviegoer. Uh, you don't have to be a big Chucky fan or a big horror fan to enjoy the movie. You know, I think if you generally like horror movies, then it's something that, you know, you would have a fun time going to see. I could see something that, you know, you're taking a date to. I can say when I went to the theater, there were several parents that had their uh, young children with them, and I'm talking about, you know, between 5 and 10 years old. I definitely would not recommend that. This is not a movie for that age group. Uh, you can. I think this definitely would be for that age. Would leave them emotionally scarred. And you know, the language and the violence is definitely not something I think is appropriate for that age group. But you know, for your older teenagers, uh, you know, if you're an adult, you know, I think you would enjoy this movie. That said, what this film does leave me excited about is I would be quite interested in a sequel. I was never really a big fan of the Chucky franchise as it is. Uh, I thought, especially towards the later sequels, I didn't think they were very good. Uh, Most of my interest in Chucky himself was just in the character, in the idea of this killer toy, and in the fact that, like I said, when I was young, you know, that I saw these movies when I was younger. I was aware of Chucky as a creature or as an entity when I was young, and so that's something that caused me, you know, kind of terror as a little kid. But other than that, you know, I've never, as an adult, you know, seen the Chucky movies and say, okay, these are masterpieces. So that said, like I said, I would be excited to see a sequel for this one, just because the whole, you know, all the time they spent on the origin story and Chucky turning, all that, you know, would be wiped away. We've already got to the party's evil, and then I believe in a sequel. Then it will be okay. Let's ratchet things up. Let's pick up the pace, and you know, let's see what he can really do. You know, let's see with him being evil from the whole movie. Let's see him come up with a plan, you know, of what he wants to do and enact that plan and how far he's going to go to enact that plan. Who's going to get caught up in the crossfire, and you know, let's see the mayhem. So in that respect, you know, I would be very enthused to see the sequel. But as it stands, like I said, 7 out of 10. Good movie. It's entertaining. Not something I'd say I'd rush out to theaters to see. If you are a horror fan, if you want to see a horror movie, you know, if you do like horror movies, definitely go see it in theaters. You know, I think you have a good time. It's fun. Otherwise, if horror is not really your thing, I don't think this is going to be the movie that's going to win you over. So once again, if you guys agree with me, if you guys disagree with me, let me know. Send me a comment. If you like my videos, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate you guys' support. Thanks once again for watching. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. I'm having a good weekend. Anytime I can see a couple movies, and I'll probably see a couple more before this weekend's over, then my weekend's going good. Thanks again for watching, guys. Take care.